All right, good evening, all. Clean up my mess here. Let's have a little conversation about Binsons and capacitors. A lot of people asking me questions about this, so I figured I'd take a couple of minutes here. So you might tell them in the middle of a restoration here again. So a couple of things. First of all, there's probably three types of capacitors in a Binson Echorec. There's a set of electrolytics. Then there's the so-called mustard caps. And then there are some ceramic capacitors we can talk about. All three of those different types here. First of all, and I was guilty of this when I first started, when you're putting the new filter caps in, a lot of people will have to scab in numerous types of filter caps, and it makes for a messy job. These are available. This is the capacitor that fits in under here, comes out through this hole. It's got two sections. This is a 33 by 33 microfarad at, what's that say under 550 volts. And you can see the source there on the capacitor, shameless plug, but these are like 14 euros and they do a great job. Whatever that is in US dollars, call it 20 bucks, whatever, it's not quite that high. But they fit right in, okay, and they do a great job. So you don't have to scab things in. The other capacitor, which mounts over here in this section, and then two sections drapes over these two electrodes, or leads will drape down and plug into the circuit board. A couple of, again, 33 by 33. 450 volt capacitors. These are F&Ts, like 10 bucks or whatever they are. They're not that expensive. They do a great job, and you can say, well, it's not the exact replacement size. True, it's not, but they work, plain and simple. And the Echorecs sound really good. So that takes care of the electrolytics. Let me set this aside, and you can tell I haven't quite gotten everything here on this one. So let's talk about the circuit boards. Now, I'm in the process of cleaning this circuit board because it's just covered with goo and solder flux and the acid from the wiring on this particular unit really tore it up pretty bad. Simple enough thing, acetone and an acid brush takes care of the problem. And some scrubbing. I don't know what I'm going to do about the rust on these shields here. But anyway, let's talk about these mustard caps. You can see especially here on this one, it's cracked. They all have cracks in them. And once they're cracked, you've broken the seal, it's time to get rid of them. So I generally just take them out. And the suitable replacements that I have found are these guys. These are the Mallory 150s. They do a great job. They also fit nicely. And I've also have had grand success with these guys. These are Illinois capacitors. But they do a great job. They sound good. I don't detect any noticeable difference in performance on either one. So whichever one of these I can get is what I end up picking up. But I've settled in on those two. They work really well. Okay. Now these guys here, a bunch of them here as better examples. These are ceramic. I have seen these go bad in a very limited fashion. There hasn't been many of them. And generally what happens with these is that it cracks. They crack. The coatings crack, and then you get contamination inside them, and then they'll crackle. They arc over, they crackle, whatever. And they're color-coded. I'll probably get this wrong, but this particular cap, it looks like one big red stripe. It's actually two red stripes. And then you've got a black stripe. So it's just like reading a resistor, except it's in picofarads. And these capacitors are all spec'd out in picofarads on the schematics when you get the schematics. Okay. So anyway, some are in microfarads, like these guys here say 0.01 microfarads on them. But generally speaking, in this guy here, for example, this will say 47,000 picofarads, which is 0.047 microfarads. Then, of course, there's a capacitor inside this shield here. Okay? So anyway, basically, if you're going to go through the caps, those are generally good substitutes. They drop right in and they look stock. So not only do they perform well, they are also they appear to be stock. Now the resistors on these Binsons I have found to be extraordinarily. I realize that we're getting off the capacitor subject here, but while I'm looking at it, these resistors have been extraordinarily stable. I have not had to change, that I can think of, any of these resistors unless the leads were broken off or badly corroded because of the acid coming out of the wiring. So the resistors are generally okay. There are a couple of these. I forgot about these. There's a couple of these tropical fish caps on here too, I think they're called. Again, I haven't had to change any of those. But these guys, these mustard or Muller caps, whatever you want to call them, you know, there's a lot of folklore around them, but generally speaking, I will say this side of the board, they're not bad. But you get on this side of the board where all the bad wiring is, and you end up with capacitors that look like this one. And this one here has got a hole in it. And in fact, on this particular unit, one of the ends was busted off on the one that goes over to the bias adjustment capacitor. All right. So anyway, there you go. If you're going to take on this job yourself, which if I could do it, anybody can do it, those are your caps that I would highly recommend that you put in. No major trade secret there, but people are asking, so I figured I'd put up a video. All right, that being said, any questions, toss them in the comments. I'm going to try and put out some more Binson tech tips as time goes on, because I think the more knowledge that's out there, the better off they are, and forget my mess behind here. All right, thanks for watching.